Hello students, today we are going to study factors affecting IR absorption frequency. So at the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand the factors affecting vibration frequency. You should be able to justify and compare vibrational frequencies of different bonds. So we are aware about now the vibration. Any change in the shape of the molecule, it may be due to stretching of the bond or bending of the bond. It's called as vibration of a vibration in a molecule. Each bond has its characteristic vibration frequency, and hence it is going to give rise to different signals in a IR spectrum. Now, if you compare here in case of an ketone, there are three bonds. One is in between carbon and alkyl part. Another one is again in between carbon and alkyl. And third one is a carbonyl. If we consider that carbonyl bond is performing vibrations at certain frequency. Now this frequency, a stretching frequency of carbonyl is 5 into 10 raised to 13 hertz. Means it is performing vibrations 5 into 10 raised to 13 per second. So you can imagine that it's a huge number. So it is contracting and elongating n number of times per second. Now what is going to happen when it is vibrating? There is change in the dipole moment of this carbonyl bond. So carbonyl bond is a polar bond with carbon to be partially positively charged and oxygen to be partially negatively charged. So when this bond undergoes vibration, it is going to produce its own electric field with certain frequency. Now this is a frequency 5 into 10 raised to 13 hertz. Now when it matches to that of the incoming infrared radiation, it is going to absorb that infrared radiation. So a carbonyl is going to absorb an infrared radiation corresponding to 5 into 10 raised to 13 hertz. Now after absorption of infrared radiation, vibrational energy of the compound is going to get changed from V0 to V1. There is increase in the vibration amplitude. Now you can see here, this is a vibration amplitude. Now the bond has undergone more stretching. Vibration frequency is going to remain same. So if it is say performing vibration 5 into 10 raised to 13 times per second, it will perform the vibration after IR absorption the same number of times, but the amplitude of vibration is going to get changed. Okay, so this is an initial amplitude. There is little bit change in a bond length when the carbonyl bond was stretching. After absorption of infrared radiation, this amplitude of vibration, the stretching is increased. Now I'll see what are the factors which affect IR absorption band. Now when you see the IR spectra, wherein we have percent transmittance versus that of the wave number, you have to look at the three parameters. First one is a position of band. Now what does this mean? Is you have to look in at what frequency a particular bond is absorbing. Say for example, this particular bond is absorbing at around 3000 per centimeter. This particular bond is vibrating and absorbing 1300 per centimeter. So this refers to the position of a band. So certain bands are high frequency band, certain bands are low frequency bands. So there are certain parameters, basically two parameters, which play the prominent role out here. Is the mass of the atoms which are connected by a bond. So if you have a lighter atom like hydrogen connected, in that case, the vibration frequency is going to be high. So if you compare a bond in between hydrogen molecule and that of bromine molecule, in this case, hydrogen being a lighter atom, it is going to have a high vibrational frequency. And if it has a high vibration frequency, it is also going to absorb higher infrared frequency. The second factor which is going to decide the position of a bond is a bond strength. More is a stiffer bond, stronger or higher will be the absorption frequency. Say, for example, if you consider carbon-carbon single bond and compare it along with carbon-carbon double bond, so double bonds are stronger in comparison to single bond. The carbon-carbons are very close to each other. The double bonds are stronger. I'm not comparing here a sigma bond versus pi bond. I'm comparing a single bond versus a double bond. So double bond is stronger in comparison to single bond, and hence it is a stiffer bond. It has a higher vibrational frequency and it also absorbs higher infrared radiations. Okay, so this is with respect to the position of band. The second parameter is strength or the intensity of the band. Okay, so you can see here some bands are weak, some bands are strong. So you can see this one is a strong band, this is having a medium intensity, these are weak bands. Okay, so we are referring to now the intensity of the band. Now what is going to decide the intensity of the band is the change in polarity. So stronger is the dipole character of a bond, stronger is going to be the intensity of that band also. Say for example, if you compare a carbonyl bond along with the carbon-carbon double bond. So carbon-carbon double bond is a non-polar bond, while carbon-oxygen double bond is a polar bond. It itself has its own dipole moment. And if you have a strong dipole, in that case, the intensity of band is also going to be higher. So this is the case if here you see a strong band and the intense band that is arising from carbonyl stretching. Okay, so the bond polarity is going to decide the intensity of the band. The third parameter, you are going to look into the width of a band. So you can see here, this band is a broad band, while this band is a narrow band. Now the hydrogen bonding here is going to play its role. If a bond is involved in a hydrogen bond formation, it is going to give rise to a broad band. Say for example, if you have an alcohol and if you compare it along with the alkane, alcohol will be involved in the hydrogen bond formation. So naturally, you're going to get a wider OH in comparison to other bonds which are not involved in a hydrogen bond formation. So they will turn out to be narrow. While if it is involved in a hydrogen bond formation, it will be a wider band. So these are 11 factors which are going to affect the vibrational frequency. So we will see them one by one. So first one is coupled vibration. Now we have seen degrees of freedom and the possible modes of vibration of a compound. For a linear molecule, the possible modes of vibrations are 3n minus 5. And for non-linear molecule, they are 3n minus 6. So you'll get certain figure out. These are the possible modes of vibration. Okay. But at certain time, you see that there are additional bands in a IR spectra, or certain bands are missing due to some reasons. Now, if you compare here methyl group and methylene group, so here you have an methyl group wherein three identical CH bands are there. Okay, so the bond strength is same. So all the three bands are vibrating at the same frequency. So naturally, they even should absorb the same radio frequency. But this doesn't happen. Okay. Now, why this is going to, why this happens is because you have these CH bonds vibrating in a form of group. Rather than performing a vibration alone, they will come together and they will perform the vibration in the form of group. Okay, so you can imagine here that out of these three bands, two bands are contracting at a time and one is elongating, or two are elongating, one is contracting. So this kind of vibration, you call this as an asymmetric stretch. And the second way is all three are there in agreement. They are elongating at the same time and contracting at the same time. You will call it as a symmetric stretch. Okay. So what has been happening out here? Rather than having a isolated CH stretch, you are going to have this whole group performing a vibration, and you will get, rather than getting a one single band, two bands. One is asymmetric stretch and the another due to symmetric stretch. So this kind of behavior, we call this as an vibrational coupling. Okay, so you can see a vibrational coupling in between two stretching vibrations. Okay, so here this is an example of vibrational coupling of two stretching, here three stretching vibrations. Now for that you have a condition that those all bonds should share the same atom. All right, so here these all CH bonds have the same carbon, they are connected to the same carbon. So here you are going to have a vibrational coupling in between stretching vibrations. Similarly, you can have a coupling in between two bending vibrations when there is a common bond between vibrating groups. So now if you compare in a in a bending vibration, there is change in the bond angle. So here, suppose if you consider this methylene, so there is change in a bond angle. Okay. And if you compare this also, there will be the change in a bond angle for this CH2. Now if they are sharing the same bond, in that case, you can see that there is a coupling in between two bending vibrations, or there could be a coupling in between a stretching and a bending vibration too. Say for example, here this CH bond is undergoing a stretching. At the same time, it is also a part of a bending vibration. So here the bond angle is been changing in between H, C and H. At the same time, this arm is undergoing a stretching vibration. So in this case, you will see a coupling in between a stretching and a bending vibration. Coupling is going to be greatest when the coupled group have equal energies. No coupling is seen if the groups are being separated by two or more bonds. Now these are the examples of vibrational coupling. Now here what I said is, if you have same kind of band, you should ideally get only one vibrational frequency. But here, as it is a coupled vibration, you are getting two. So one is asymmetric and another one is symmetric. Asymmetric stretch is always at higher frequency in comparison to symmetric stretch. So for methyl, you have a symmetric stretch at around 2872 per centimeter and asymmetric stretch at around 2962. Now, in a similar manner, you will see this kind of vibrational coupling for number of examples, say anhydrides and amino, nitro. You can see even nitro, 1350 per centimeter is symmetric stretch and 1550 is for asymmetric stretch. Same way for your methylene, you can see asymmetric stretch and symmetric stretch. Asymmetric stretch is at higher frequency. Okay. SO2, again, they are bearing the same sulfur, common atom. Okay, so you have your condition fulfilled and it is going to show your asymmetric and symmetric stretch. Same is along with the carboxylate ion, two oxygens are sharing one carbon. Okay, so that's why you will see here vibrational coupling too. So this is the first factor, vibrational coupling. The second factor is overtones. Now, in basically whatever bands you're going to get in IR spectra, these are due to the fundamental vibration. So wherein the energy of the bond is going to get changed from V0 to V1. Okay, but what happens is in case of overtones, the energy of the molecule is going to get changed from V0 to V2 or V3 and so on. Okay, so if you are having a fundamental band at around 1000 per centimeter, its overtone can be seen at around 2000 per centimeter. First overtone, second overtone could be at around 3000 per centimeter. Okay, so under certain circumstances, you can see the overtones of certain bonds, and as you go along, here you can see the higher energy levels are coming closer. So if I am expecting fundamental band at 1000, the first overtone of it has to be at 2000. So it is not exactly 2000, it is lesser than that, because you can see that as you go along, higher energy levels will try to come close. Okay, so it may be at around say 1995, and the second overtone we are expecting at around 3000, so it could be at around 2900 per centimeter. Okay, so this is what X and Y, you have an fundamental band, and if you have something 2X and 2Y or 3X and 3Y, you will call them as an overtone bands. Now overtones generally are weaker in amplitude. So if you compare the intensity of fundamental band along with the overtone is always weak, and the intensity of overtone decreases as the order of overtone increases. Okay, so overtones you can see for say carbonyl compound or CH, NH, SH kind of bands. So wherein basically hydrogen is been involved. Okay, which are they? Say OH, NH, CH, SH. If you are talking about now your OH stretch, which is encountered at around 3500 per centimeter, this is a fundamental band for OH. Its overtone has to be at around 3500 into 2, so that is 7000 per centimeter, and these overtones or uh, combination bands generally go at a near infrared region. Okay, rather than observing it in mid infrared, see those which are involving hydrogen in a bond, those overtones are being seen in a near infrared region. Okay, you can similarly in a mid IR you can see certain overtones which do not have hydrogen as a part. So you can see for carbonyl fundamental, which is been at around 1700 per centimeter, its overtone would be at around 3400 per centimeter. Okay, aromatic compounds can be interestingly characterized due to the presence of overtones from 1500 to 2000 per centimeter. Okay, so remember one thing is overtones are much weaker in nature. Similarly, apart from overtones, you can see certain combination bands or difference band in a IR spectra too. So whenever you have a photon which is capable of exciting two vibrations at the same time, you're going to have a combination band. Or you can have a difference band whenever one oscillator is absorbing and the second oscillator is emitting infrared radiation. Means say one is absorbing at 1000 and the another one is emitting at 400. In that case, you will get a difference band at around 600 per centimeter. The second factor, the third factor which is going to affect the vibration frequency is the Fermi resonance. So this is first proposed by Enrico Fermi, and here what he has studied is the interaction in between the fundamental band along with the overtone or a combination band. Okay, so what we have, a fundamental band is interacting along with overtone or a combination band. So as I've said, if you have a fundamental band at around 1000 per centimeter, its overtone is going to be at around 2000 per centimeter. Fine. Now, if I am having my overtone at around 2000 per centimeter and my second band is also vibrating at the same frequency at around 2000 per centimeter. Okay, so these are very closer to each other and they will influence each other's intensity. Okay, so what is going to happen due to this is there is going to be intensity sharing of those bands. So overtones are ideally weaker in intensity in comparison to fundamental band. So the upper diagram you can see, this is overtone and this is a fundamental band. Now as these are very close to each other, in that case you are going to have their intensity sharing. So the fundamental band is going to share its intensity to that of your overtone, and the overtone will turn out to be stronger. So you can see in comparison to first, the bottom one, the overtone is resulting, it's a stronger one, and you can see that the two peaks are shifting their position also. Okay, initially they were close to each other, now they have, one has shifted to higher frequency and the second one is been shifted to lower frequency. Now this is the phenomenon which has been discovered by scientist Enrico Fermi, and that's why the name of this phenomenon is called as Fermi resonance. Now this is, you can see in case of aldehydes. So aldehydes, you have a CH deformation or a bending vibration at around 1400 per centimeter. So you can see at around 1400 per centimeter, CH bending fundamental vibration is there. All right. So 1400 is a fundamental, where you will see its overtone. It will be at around 2800 per centimeter. Okay, approximately at around 2800. Fine. So you have a CH bend at around 1400. Its first overtone at around 2800 per centimeter, and in the same region you have your CH stretching vibration also. All right, I'm talking about now CH stretching vibration. Now due to this, what happens is you have your overtone also lying in the same region, and you have your fundamental band of CH lying in this region, and you have your Fermi resonance playing its role. There would be the intensity sharing. So you can see here the Fermi doublet, your overtone is not weak. All right, so there is intensity sharing, they have shared their intensities, and there is also a position shift. Okay, and rather than um getting a single absorption signal for CH, you are going to get a two signals. All right, this is the phenomenon seen due to Fermi resonance. Same way in case of IR spectra of benzoyl fluoride, you can see at around 1780 a Fermi doublet. Fine. Now, looking at this figure, someone may say that this compound contains two carbonyl groups. All right, because this is a region where carbonyl absorbs at around 1700, the carbonyl absorbs. If in this region, if you're getting two peaks, so that's the indication that the compound contains two carbonyl groups, but this is not the case. All right, this is happening due to Fermi resonance. Now, you have CH bending vibration. Okay, this aromatic CH bending vibration at around fundamental at around 875. All right, so its overtone, it would be at around 875 into 2. All right, so say at around 1800 or 1750, correct? So what is going to happen is you have this overtone lying in the same region, and the carbonyl fundamental is also lying in the same region. So there will be the intensity sharing, the position shift, and a Fermi doublet. Next factor affecting the vibrational frequency is hydrogen bonding. There are two types of hydrogen bonding. One is intermolecular hydrogen bonding, which is observed within different molecules, and the second is intramolecular hydrogen bonding, which is observed within the same molecule. So we can differentiate in between inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonding using IR spectroscopy. So intermolecular hydrogen bonding is going to give rise to a broad band. The width of the band is dependent upon the concentration of analyte, and on dilution, the wider band will turn out to be a narrower. While in case of intramolecular hydrogen bonding, it is going to give rise to a sharp peak. There is a little bit downward frequency shift, and here in this case, the intensity, sorry, the width of the band, it is not going to diminish with the dilution, so it is going to remain same. Now why this is going to happen, we'll see that. Now this is the case wherein there is a intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So this is your carboxylic acid. So it's a dimer formation, and you can see that your carbonyl as well as OH band is involved in a hydrogen bond formation. So right now we are focusing on what is the effect on the stretching frequency of OH. So right now we are looking into the OH vibration frequency. Same way in case of alcohol, also there are number of hydrogen bonds. You can see that oxygen is being here involved in bond formation, hydrogen bond formation, along with the proton with the second alcoholic molecule. Now, as I've said, the vibration frequency depends upon the bond strength. Okay. Now here there is no fixed bond strength, as the bond length is not fixed. Some bonds are longer in comparison to other. So here you can see that these bonds are short bonds in comparison to these bonds are longer bonds. So naturally the bond stiffness is also not fixed. If we have a longer bond, okay, the distance in between hydrogen and oxygen is will increase, so that bond will turn out to be weaker, and the weaker band is going to vibrate at a lower frequency. When it's vibrate at the lower frequency, it is also going to absorb the low radio frequency. So low IR frequency. You can see here that this side, so whatever weaker bonds are there, so these are going to absorb lower IR frequency, while those at a higher side here, you can see that this is arising due to stiffer bonds or a shorter bond. So wherever you can see that there are shorter bonds, so these shorter bonds are stiffer bonds, they are vibrating at a high frequency, and that's why these are absorbing higher infrared frequency. All right, so this is the reason you are going to have a wider bond if the molecule is involved in a hydrogen bond formation. So this is the case for pure liquid. All right. So pure liquid, your analyte concentration is high and it is extensively involved in a hydrogen bond formation. But as you go on diluting it, so there is going to be rupture of those intermolecular hydrogen bonding, correct? So each molecule will be now separated from the other one. Okay. and from variable bond length, now you can move on to the fixed bond length. So this is the case wherein some of the molecules have a fixed strong cipher bond, and that is absorbing at a higher frequency. Some of them are involved in a hydrogen bond formation, and that's as the result of it you can see the two peaks, one due to free OH and another due to hydrogen bond formation. Whenever you are going to dilute it so that completely the hydrogen bond formation is diminished, at that time you have a very fixed bond length of OH, a stiffer bond, a shorter bond, and that as a result you can see that it is absorbing at a higher frequency. All right. So this is OH free, which is going to absorb at 3600 per centimeter. Once it is involved in a hydrogen bond formation, means weakening of a bond, it is going to absorb at a lower frequency. Fine. So it will start absorption from 3500 per centimeter, and it will go down. All right. That depends upon whether OH is of carboxylic acid or it is of alcohol. Again, the bond width is going to get altered. But what basically happens is bond is going to get widened, and it is going to shift at a lower frequency side. All right. So this is the case for intermolecular hydrogen bonding. But in case of intramolecular hydrogen bonding, you can see that uh, there is a fixed kind of bond length. All right. You can see that here you have an hydrogen bond formation, correct? And if you go on diluting, it's not going to get ruptured because it is there within the molecule. Fine. So you're going to have a fixed bond length, and that's why a sharper band in comparison to your intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Okay. So that's the way you can differentiate in between intra and intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So intramolecular hydrogen bonding, it's not going to get altered along with the dilution. The next factor is electronic effect. So herein we are going to study inductive as well as the mesomeric effect. Okay. Now here, if you look at those all different compounds of carbonyl class, all right, um, you can take something aldehydes and ketones at the center. Ketones with the absorption frequency at 1715 per centimeter. And if you compare all different carbonyl compounds, in this case, you can see there is a difference in the absorption frequency for the same carbonyl stretch. Now here we are taking the example of carbonyl stretch. Here, all carbonyl are going to vibrate at different frequencies. Okay. So what is going to make them vibrate at different frequencies? We are going to study that. Okay. So if we are talking about the same carbonyl, we ideally should have the same vibration frequency, but this doesn't happen. Fine. So all those bonds are vibrating at a different speed. Fine. Means if this is absorbing at 1800, so naturally this bond is vibrating faster in comparison to amide, wherein this carbonyl is vibrating slower. So there are electronic factors which are going to play their role, and they are going to little bit change the vibration frequency of the same bond. All right. So here, if you compare simply aldehyde and ketones, we have an inductive effect playing its role. Fine. So in case of aldehydes, we have this hydrogen. Okay. If you go to ketone, it's been replaced by alkyl group. So, fine. So in case of alkyl, has a positive inductive effect, and it releases electrons towards carbonyl. So if you compare your carbonyl, it's a dipole with the carbon bearing a positive charge, oxygen bearing a negative charge. Fine. More is a stronger dipole, more is going to be the absorption intensity of that particular band. Now what's going to happen if you release the electron towards carbon, the positive charge on the carbon is going to get diminished. Fine. So it will result in the weakening of bond. All right. So if I have oxygen to be negatively charged, if you make carbon to be more positively charged, the bond is going to be more stronger. Fine. But this is totally opposite in case of ketone. What is going to happen in ketone? Alkyl releases electron towards carbon. All right. So electron is been released. So naturally the positive charge on the carbon is going to get decreased. That's the result. You can see that the carbonyl bond is turning out to be weaker. Okay, it is turning out to be weaker, and that's why it is absorbing at a lower frequency. Fine. So when you move from ketone to aldehyde, aldehyde absorbs at a higher frequency. When you now move on to ester, fine, this side ester, you have now your hydrogen is been replaced by um, OR. O is electronegative, so it's going to pull the electron away from the carbon. Carbon is being made more electropositive. Fine. So this is positive, this is negative. So there is firm attraction and the bond is more stiffer and it is going to vibrate at a higher frequency, and it also absorbs higher infrared frequency. If you go on now to acid chloride you have an chlorine. Okay, so which is having still more electron attracting effect, negative inductive effect. So this carbonyl in case of acid chloride is going to be more stronger, and as a result you can see that it is absorbing at a still higher frequency at 1800 per centimeter. Similar way, anhydrides also show two peaks at 1810 and 1760 per centimeter. This has been seen due to vibrational coupling, and the higher frequency is due to negative inductive effect of oxygen. Fine. So from ketone to aldehyde to ester to acid chloride and anhydrides, you see that the inductive effect is playing its role. Okay. Now, if we have the oxygen pushing the vibrational frequency to the higher side in case of ester, and if you compare on contrary to carboxylic acid, it is coming down to the lower frequency. Now, why this is going to happen? We have to think about that. Same oxygen in ester shifts the vibrational frequency of carbonyl at higher frequency, but in carboxylic acid that is been seen at around 1710. Now here you have inductive effect of oxygen, but what is going to happen in case of carboxylic acid is your hydrogen bonding is going to play a prominent role. Okay, so we have seen in on a prior slide that your hydrogen bonding plays a role in a weakening of a bond. Once the bond has been weakened, it is going to absorb at a lower frequency. So we have seen that even this carbonyl bond, this oxygen is involved in a hydrogen bond formation. So this carbonyl bond is also weakened and it is going to absorb at a lower frequency. So although you have an inductive effect of oxygen playing its role, you have more effect of your hydrogen bonding in case of your carboxylic acid. Okay. Now when you move on to amides, amides, again here nitrogen has a negative inductive effect, but it also has a positive mesomeric effect. So what is going to happen is um, you have to ask the question about any atom, whether it has a strong inductive effect or a strong mesomeric effect. So here your oxygen, if you think about its inductive effect, negative inductive effect is more stronger in comparison to its mesomeric effect. But if it is an nitrogen's electron release by mesomeric effect is more stronger in comparison to its negative inductive effect. So the nitrogen releases electron towards carbon. So you can imagine here that this releases electron towards carbon. There would be double bond formation in between carbon and nitrogen, while this electron pair is being shifted onto the oxygen. So a double bond is being converted into single bond. So I have already told you, if you compare double bond and a single bond, double bond is always stronger. Okay, now in case of amide, you have this resonance playing its role, and you have 50% of the molecule with a single bond and 50% of the molecule with a double bond, and ultimately the bond carbonyl bond is being weakened, and that is going to absorb at a lower frequency. Fine. So here your mesomeric effect is playing its role. Okay, now the next factor is the mass of the atom which has been connected, all right, and the force constant. Okay, now this has been derived from Hooke's law. Now Hooke's law is useful for determining the vibration frequency of particular band. So this vibrational frequency nu bar is equal to 1 upon 2 pi c under root of k upon mu. All right. So which are two variables out here is k, which is called as force constant of a bond, and mu is a reduced mass. Okay. So mu is equal to m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2. Fine. So m1 and m2 is the masses of the atoms which are connected due to certain bond. All right, fine. So as you can see that vibrational frequency is directly proportional to the force constant. As higher is the force constant of a bond, higher will be the vibrational frequency. And there is inverse relationship in between mass mu here. Fine. So you have lower mass, it's going to have a higher vibration frequency. Fine. So we'll see how this is going to be happening in case of say CH, CD, CO and Cl. If you compare, this carbon is connected to hydrogen, deuterium is more heavy, then you have oxygen still more heavy, and chlorine is again a heavier one. So what is the outcome of this is this bond is vibrating fast, okay, because you have a lighter ion. So this bond is vibrating fast, and that's why it is also absorbing higher IR frequency. While in case if you go to heavy atoms, so these bonds are vibrating at a lower frequency, and as the outcome, their position in the IR spectra is at also a lower frequency. Fine. The second factor is bond stiffness. So here you have to compare a triple bond along with a double bond along with a single bond. So single bond, as I've said, that they are always weaker. So this weak bond is going to absorb at a lower frequency in comparison to double or triple bonds. The next factor we'll consider is a ring size. All right. So if you compare here cycloheptanone to cyclohexanone up to say cyclopropanone, what you can see that there is increase in the vibrational frequency for the same carbonyl. We are comparing it along with the carbonyl. All right. So ideally, if all of them are carbonyl, they should vibrate at the same frequency, but this doesn't happen. Fine. All those different carbonyls are vibrating at a different frequency. All right. So in case of cyclopropanone, if it has been observed at 1815, so naturally this bond must be vibrating at a higher frequency. Now, why this is going to happen, that we have to look in. Fine. Now, here, if you consider the state of hybridization of each carbon, all right, which is there in carbonyl bond formation, so it is sp2. Fine. Means sp2, you have three sp2 hybrid orbitals. Out of that, two are involved in a bond formation along with the ring, and one is involved in a bond formation along with the oxygen. All right. And additionally, there is one pi bond in between oxygen and carbon. Fine. So as you go on decreasing the ring size, what happens is there is lot of strain on this carbon. All right. Because it has to form a bond along with now this carbon. All right. Now there is more of the stress put on this carbon. Okay. Now what is going to happen? There is more of the p character now involved in your cyclopropanone in this particular bond. Fine. In the ring, whatever those bonds are there, in this case, basically this is formed uh, due to overlapping of sp2 of this carbon, and here this carbon with sp3. Fine. So now what's going to happen? This carbon, as it is more strained, fine, what it is going to do, it is going to use more of the p character for forming a bond in a short ring, in a small ring, while in along with the oxygen, naturally the S character is going to get increased. Fine. So if you compare cyclohexanone, it has been seen at around 1715. This carbonyl is been seen at around 1715. As you go on to this side, more of the P character will go towards the ring and more of the S character will be used for bond formation along with the oxygen. More is the S character in any bond, the bond is going to be turn out to be more steep. Fine. Means this carbonyl of cyclopropanone is more steep, more strong. It is vibrating at a higher speed, and that's why it also absorb at a higher frequency. Fine. So this is what is the centered value 1715 for ketones. Also we have seen aliphatic ketones. Also you have the same 1715 value. Um, and now as you go on to decrease ring size, all right, approximately there is addition of 30 to 35 per centimeter. So you shouldn't by heart those values. You can just remember with one decrease in the carbon, generally there is 30 to 35 per centimeter has to be added. Okay, now if you have an conjugated systems, it also going to is also going to change the vibration frequency. Say for the carbonyl, if it is absorbing at around 17-15 per centimeter, if you put additional conjugation, okay, you have a double bond present out here. Now what's going to happen is it's involved in the resonance. It's going to release the electron towards your carbonyl, and naturally the carbonyl bond is going to turn out to be a single bond, correct? So you have few of the structures with the double bond character, few of the structures with the single bond character, and ultimately the CO bond strength is going to get reduced. So if you have any kind of additional conjugation, so naturally it is going to change the vibration frequency. Okay, so this is the case with carbonyl. So here you have to subtract around 25 to 30 per centimeter with additional conjugation. Okay, so if it is been absorbing at around 1715, you have to subtract 25, so it will turn out to be 1695 per centimeter. The next factor is the physical state of the substance during the measurement. So if you are going to do the analysis of the substance in a vapor stage or in a liquid state or solid state, naturally it is going to matter. Substance absorbs at a higher frequency in a vapor state in comparison to liquid or a solid state. Fine. If the compound is analyzed in the solid state, it is been involved in more of the hydrogen bond formation, and it will give rise to a higher width of the peak when you try to do the comparison in liquid state. The next factor is the field effect, or it is also called as alpha halogen effect. Now here this is the case with aromatic uh, ester, wherein they bear an alpha halogen on the ring. So if you can see, this is your aromatic ester and it's going to be having alpha halogen. Now what is going to happen that this is uh, this chlorine has a negative inductive effect. Now the negative field of the chlorine repels the non-bonding electrons of the carbonyl, and hence it is going to result in the strengthening of this bond. Fine. So as this bond is being strengthened, it is going to absorb at a higher frequency in comparison to this. Okay. Now here field effect is not there. Fine. So this is going to absorb at a lower frequency, while the first structure is going to absorb at a higher frequency. So you call this as a field effect or alpha halogen effect. Next factor is the hybridization. Fine. So you are aware about the hybridization, sp2 and sp3 hybridization. So these are the examples wherein ethane has a sp3 hybridization, ethene has a sp2 hybridization, and ethine has a sp hybridization. Okay. Now if you see sp hybridization, you have two sp hybrid orbitals formed, correct? So this carbon is has formed two sp hybrid orbitals by mixing of one s and one p orbital, and it has given rise to two equivalent sp hybrid orbitals, so which are involved in a bond formation. So here this CH bond is being formed by overlapping of sp of carbon and one s of hydrogen. All right. So sp, in case of sp, the percentage of s is 50 and percentage of p is also 50. Fine. If you go to ethene, all right, so see, this CH bond is being formed by overlapping of sp2 of this carbon and one s of the hydrogen. So in case of sp2, it's been formed due to overlapping mixing of one s and two p orbitals. Fine. So here you have these three orbitals. Out of that, s is only one fraction, fine, and p are two fractions, so naturally the contribution of s is 33%. While in case of ethane, you have this CH bond formed due to overlapping of sp3 hybrid orbital of carbon and one s of hydrogen, fine. And if you compare now sp3, what is going to happen in sp3 is the contribution of s is only 25%, correct? So one s, one fraction of s and three fractions of p, so naturally the contribution of um, s is 25, so this has to be sp3, fine. So this one sp3. So more is the s character, more is the stiffer bond, you are aware of now. More is the s character, more is the stiffer bond. So which has the more s character? Or here all CHR of ideally looking into the same types, but they are vibrating at different frequencies. Now why? Because the bond stiffness is different. Here this particular bond is being formed by having more of the s character into it. So ethyne has basically more of the s character into it, and that's why it is ether bond and it vibrates at a higher frequency. It also absorbs a higher IR frequency. So it's been seen, ethylene is been seen at around 3300 per centimeter. While in case of ethene, it is been seen at around 3050 per centimeter. While the CH band of ethane is been seen at around 28 to 2962 per centimeter. Fine. So this is where US character is playing its role. Thank you.